The box hit the pavement with a muted clink, soft enough that I might have missed it if the night hadn't been so silent. I bent down instinctively. Black leather, front pocket unzipped, probably popped open from the fall. I reached in expecting her usual, lip gloss, earbuds, some folded receipt, but my hand closed around something cold, smooth. I pulled it out, correct, not hers, or rather not the one I gave her. This one was identical, almost. Same width, same finish, but newer, untouched by the small nick that had marked our wedding bands ever since our honeymoon in Rome. New? I asked as I held it up. She looked down and smiled too quickly, too easily. Oh, that. I had it remade. The old one's tight. Lately. She said it like she'd prepared it, like it wasn't the first time she'd practiced this line in her head. I nodded, said nothing, helped her gather the rest of her things and carried them into the house, like always. But something in my stomach twisted and didn't untwist. That night, while she showered, I stared at the two toothbrushes side by side in our bathroom and imagined what it would look like if one of them disappeared. Tuesday. Her alarm went off at 6:15, as it always did. She kissed me on the forehead and said she had early yoga. Nothing strange about that except the blush on her cheeks and the soft curl of her hair that wasn't there when we went to bed. Yoga is 7 in the morning with eyeliner. I got up after she left, poured coffee, and opened a fresh page in the notebook I'd once used for work memos. I hadn't touched it in months. Suspicious. One second ring in her gym bag claims the first is too tight. No proof of purchase in her inbox. Checked. Suspicion 2. Leaves for yoga in full makeup. No mat. Hair curled. By 8:10, I was in the parking lot across from the building where she said her studio was. I saw her car, but she wasn't inside. 10 minutes later, she walked out of a different entrance, dressed not in leggings and sneakers, but in a navy dress. Tight, expensive. Not fitness ready. She got into a black car that pulled up without honking. A man was driving. Sunglasses, well-groomed beard. The kind of effortless confidence that makes your gut instinctively clench. I followed. The car took them across the city, winding into the old part of town where the streets narrowed and people moved slower. They parked near a stone chapel, a small thing with ivy crawling up one side, and a wooden sign that read, "Private ceremony in progress. Please respect our space." They went inside, laughing. I waited. 35 minutes later, they came out. She was smiling. He was holding her hand. And on her finger, the new ring, not her wedding ring. I opened my notebook and wrote 3 words in large block letters. Private vow renewal. And underneath it, a single line. Who the hell was he? I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her, counting her breaths and watching the rise and fall of her back. My mind kept circling the same questions, only now they were heavier. The second ring, the man, the chapel. Private vow renewal? What kind of therapy involves exchanging vows with a stranger? By morning, I'd convinced myself I needed answers, not conclusions. Assumptions were dangerous. Evidence was better, so I started collecting it. Wednesday, she left for a meeting with a client. No time for breakfast, she said. She wore the same perfume she used to wear when we first met. Citrus and something floral underneath, like memory in a bottle. I waited 10 minutes before following. This time, she took the metro instead of her car. Interesting, I stayed back, just out of her line of sight, ducking behind kiosks and newspaper stands like I was in a spy film. I felt ridiculous, but the knot in my chest was very real. She exited 3 stops later, turned into a pedestrian alley, and disappeared into a building I didn't recognize. I moved closer. The sign on the door was small, engraved in glass, Artist Wellness and Psychotherapy Center. Therapy, she'd told me years ago. She didn't believe in it. Said talking about feelings with strangers was like trying to treat a broken bone with a song. And yet, here she was. A client? Or something more. She stayed inside for over an hour. I wrote it down. Visit one psychotherapy center, unknown purpose, 1 hour. I looked up the name later. The website was clean, minimal, vague, no group photos, just a few names and titles. One stood out. DRDES, clinical psychotherapist. Specialization, relationship simulation therapy. What exactly were they simulating? Thursday. She cooked dinner she never cooks midweek. Said she missed our old pasta nights. I asked her if work was stressful. She smiled. Not really, just reevaluating priorities. She was warm, careful, almost nostalgic. It unnerved me. Halfway through dinner, I said, "You seem different lately." She looked up, fork paused in midair. Different how? Lighter, like something changed. She laughed softly. "That's good, isn't it?" I nodded, but deep down, I didn't believe her lightness came from peace. It felt more like detachment, like she'd already made a decision I hadn't been told about. That night, I found the envelope, hidden in the third drawer of her desk beneath a stack of printer paper. It wasn't sealed, it wasn't addressed to anyone, but it was written in her handwriting, "To the version of you I wish I could speak to without being interrupted." I stopped reading, folded it neatly, put it back exactly how I found it. A Friday, I stood outside the therapy center again. Same time, she arrived 15 minutes late. The man from the chapel was waiting near the entrance. No handshake this time, no cautious glances, just a soft hand on his chest, and her stepping in first like they'd rehearsed it. I didn't follow. I went home, I poured myself a drink, then another. Later, she came back home humming, her mood radiant. She asked how my day was. I told her I worked from home. She kissed my cheek and said, "Good. You needed some rest." That night, I opened my notebook again and wrote. She knows I suspect. She's waiting for me to ask, why? Then I turned to a new page and scribbled, "Don't confront. Not yet. Watch, listen, learn. The truth doesn't hide, it performs." I kept seeing the image in my head. Her hand on his chest, soft, familiar, not tentative like an affair, but practiced like routine. A gesture not of seduction, but of habit, and that terrified me more, because it meant she wasn't caught in a moment. She was living one. Saturday, the day she usually spent at home, but not this time. She told me she had a team-building workshop. I didn't argue, just nodded and offered to drive her. She declined with a kiss on the cheek and the kind of smile that used to mean love. Now, it felt like a warning. As soon as she left, I opened her closet. I'd never done that before. Not really. I'd opened it to grab a sweater, maybe a scarf, but I never looked. Today, everything was arranged by color. Neat, precise. She always had that streak in her, but behind her winter coats, zipped in a garment bag, I found a dress. A dark burgundy evening gown with tags. I checked the label, Elena Knyasheva, Haute Atelier, 74,000 rubles. That wasn't team building wear. I took a photo of the tag and put it back carefully. I knew enough not to disturb her sense of order. People like her, people with double lives, use control like a weapon. I followed her again that evening. She wasn't going to a workshop. She met him outside the same chapel. But this time, they didn't go in. They stood at the edge of the garden near the wrought iron gate. She gave him something small wrapped in tissue paper. He opened it. He smiled. He kissed her forehead, not her lips. Then he left. She stayed there a while, alone, staring at the chapel door as if waiting for someone or something. And then she did the strangest thing. She took off her wedding ring and put on the new one, just for a moment. Then she slipped it off again and disappeared into the darkness. Sunday, I confronted my reflection first. I looked myself in the mirror for what felt like hours. My face had changed. There were lines I didn't remember, shadows that weren't there a week ago. I looked tired, yes, but also like I'd been erased from something. Like a photo where someone had cut out one figure and taped another in their place. That afternoon, I called Pavel, my oldest friend. We hadn't spoken in months, maybe longer. I didn't mention Marina. I just said I needed coffee and company. We met near Patriar Prudy. He asked how things were. I said, strange. He asked if we were okay. I hesitated. I think I'm being rewritten. He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. Forget it, I said. How's work? Later that night, I finally opened the letter. If you're reading this, I couldn't say it out loud. Maybe I should have. Maybe it would have spared us both the theater of pretending. But the truth is, I felt like a ghost in this house for a long time. Not because of you, maybe because of me. I kept hoping the silence would fix itself, but silence only deepens when you don't interrupt it. So I created another version of myself, one who could breathe again, one who could rehearse the kind of love I wasn't sure I could ask for. This isn't an affair. It's not a betrayal. It's therapy. That's what they call it. Role immersion. He's not real, not in the way you fear. He's not a threat. He's a construct, a performance. I needed to renew my vows to myself before I could mean them to you again. I needed to imagine what commitment would feel like if I chose it again. Freely. I love you. But I've forgotten how to be in this with you, and I needed to remember who I was without you first. I folded the letter slowly. There were no tear stains, no visible regret in the handwriting, just careful cursive, rehearsed and calm, like she had already forgiven herself. I sat at the kitchen table where we once planned vacations and argued about wine. I poured a drink. Left the ring she had taken off, the real one, on the table beside the glass. She came home an hour later, stopped in the doorway. She saw the ring first, then the glass, then me. Neither of us spoke. She crossed the room slowly, deliberately, and sat down across from me. I asked one question. What's his name? She paused. He doesn't have one. I laughed. I couldn't help it. A hollow, aching laugh that felt like it cracked something inside. Right, I said. He's just a metaphor in a suit. She didn't flinch. He's a therapist, an actor technically, hired, supervised, safe, trained to respond within boundaries. So you play house, I said, while I wash the dishes and wonder if I've gone insane. She didn't answer. We sat there in the quiet, and for the first time in years, I didn't know who was across from me. Not my wife, not a stranger, just someone who had already left long before she walked out the door. There was a chill in the kitchen that had nothing to do with the thermostat. It was past midnight. Rain tapped softly against the windows. A street lamp outside cast a pale glow through the blinds, striping the countertops like prison bars. Marina stood by the sink with her back to me. Her reflection flickered in the darkened window, ghost-like. I stayed at the table, still, watching. I read the letter, I said finally. Her shoulders lifted just slightly and fell. I figured, she said. Silence again. A long, brittle one. You rehearsed that too? I asked. The letter, the timing, the silence that followed. No, she said, but I knew how it would land. I stared at her reflection, not her. Then why did you come back tonight? She turned around slowly, holding a glass of water like a shield. Because I didn't lie. That's not true. She didn't argue. I didn't have an affair, she said instead. But I did create a space where I didn't belong to you, where I didn't belong to anyone, where I could explore what I felt without guilt. I stood. You did that by holding another man's hand in front of a chapel while wearing a ring you never showed me. It was therapy, Alexei. A process, symbolic repetition, vows as a way to process commitment, not to him, to myself. You keep saying therapy like it's a spell that makes everything okay. She didn't flinch. It made me understand something I couldn't see inside this house. What? I asked, louder now. That I'm some anchor dragging you down? No, she said calmly. That I disappeared, and you didn't notice. That landed like a punch. I stepped back as if space could protect me from what she'd just said. She walked to the table, set down the glass, her voice softened. You love the version of me that didn't ask for anything. The one who handled her career and her grief and still smiled when you needed quiet. My throat tightened. I never wanted to become someone else, she said. I just wanted to feel like someone again. I sat back down. Then why not tell me? She looked at me now, direct, clear-eyed. Because you would have tried to fix it. To control it. And it wasn't yours to fix. The words hit hard. They were cold, not cruel, but surgical. You were always the calm one, I muttered. Mostly to myself. The stable one. I thought that meant you were okay. I wasn't. The words hung between us. Damp. Heavy. I reached for my notebook, still on the table, dog-eared and frayed now. I flipped to the most recent page. I hadn't written anything since Tuesday. The last entry read, "She is disappearing, and I don't know if I want to stop her." I slid it toward her. She read it silently, then closed the notebook. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked, just once. I didn't want to hurt you. You did anyway. She nodded. I know. We sat there a long time. The hum of the refrigerator, the only sound. A strange peace settled in. Not comfortable, not safe, but honest. You could have told me you were broken, I whispered. I want to be fixed. That silenced me. I stood up and walked to the cupboard. Reached for the old bottle of brandy we hadn't touched since her father's funeral. Poured 2 glasses. I handed her one. We didn't toast, just drank. This man, I said finally, is he real? She shook her head. Not in the way you think. No. But you kissed him? No. He kissed her. The version of me I was allowed to try on. I looked at her, really looked at her. I don't know who you are, I said. She nodded, eyes brimming now. That makes 2 of us. The hours stretched thin after that. Neither of us moved toward reconciliation or away. We just existed in that space. Half strangers, half memory. Before she went upstairs, she stopped at the door. Tomorrow, she said, we should talk. Decide what to do next. I nodded. She left. Her steps up the stairs were quiet, deliberate, and then it was just me in the kitchen, alone, with the sound of rain and the echo of 1,000 unsaid things. The morning after our kitchen conversation was quiet. She was gone before I woke up. No note, no message, just the soft trace of her perfume lingering in the hallway like a ghost that hadn't decided whether it wanted to leave. Her side of the bed was cold. I sat at the edge of it, rubbing my temples, the events of the last few weeks crashing down in a weightless, quiet storm. No explosions, no screaming, just fractures. Delicate, decisive. Downstairs, the dining table was still set with the remnants of our midnight truce. 2 empty glasses, her folded napkin, my notebook untouched. I opened it slowly, flipped through the pages. What had started as a collection of suspicions now looked like a roadmap through grief. Not just hers, but mine. A morning of the story I thought we were living. At noon, a courier arrived, thin man, polite voice. He handed me a white envelope, not sealed, just closed. No return address. I knew her handwriting before I even opened it. Inside, just one sheet. I'm not coming back. Not because I don't love you. I do, but because staying would mean pretending again. And we both deserve more than that. This version of me, the one who broke the illusion, she's real now. And she can't live behind closed doors anymore. You didn't fail me, Alexei. You were steady. You were safe. But I built my silence on top of you until it crushed both of us. Please don't wait for me to return. Let this be an end that gives us beginnings. No signature, just empty space at the bottom as if she ran out of words or didn't trust any more of them. That night, I packed a small bag and drove without destination. The city stretched out around me full of lights and quiet strangers, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel obligated to go home. I ended up on the edge of the river near a park we used to walk through in winter. I sat on a bench and opened the notebook again. My pen hovered for a long time before I finally wrote. Maybe love isn't something you lose all at once. Maybe it unthreads quietly, thread by thread, until all that's left is a shape that once fit you. Maybe she didn't deceive me. Maybe she just stopped pretending. And maybe I did too. The breeze picked up. Across the water, I saw the soft glow of the chapel lights in the distance, the same one I once watched her walk into with another man. Now it looked different, smaller. Less threatening. Not a monument to betrayal, just a place where someone tried to restart her life. Later that night, I slipped my wedding ring into the glove compartment and closed it with a soft click. Not in anger, not in mourning, just release. She had already stepped into her new story. Now it was my turn.